record button, recording now. Okay, great. Thanks again. This is Greg Wilshire with AXUS Travel App filling in for Aviva, who's at a conference right now. This is the advanced training, and this one truly will be an advanced training, almost more of an AXUS 3.0 than AXUS 2.0, if you want to put it in those terms. I'm going to record this and make it available. The thing that I think typically most people like to see in AXUS is, well, how do I make them more engaging? How do I make them more attractive? Then how do I make them proposals? How do I actually make a proposal out of AXUS? So I think that's what we'll cover, making proposals, making them look visibly attractive and also more engaging to your clients, so that you're offering them something more, A, which makes you stand out, but B, it just heightens the chances that they're probably going to want to show off that itinerary on their phone to somebody in their network. And of course, it's always going to have your logo, your name. The call to action is if they want to go on a trip like that, they have to call through you. So the better looking that we make these itineraries, the chances are that they're going to help market your services long after that trip has taken place. So we'll go ahead and get started. And like I said, we're going to go ahead and show off a lot of the advanced features in the process of making what could very well be a proposal. Because keep in mind, in AXUS, there is not yet the actual status differentiation from an itinerary to a proposal to a trip sample. All of that would need to be done in the title, or whether you're presenting them pricing. We will have a proper status, I think, when we replatform early next year. But as of now, you kind of have to force it to look like a proposal. So we're going to go through the process of making a proposal using some really good image techniques, adding some hyperlinks, using control search feature, adding in a post-trip survey, adding in things like weather links, all kind of fun stuff that might not be intuitive when the first couple weeks of using AXUS. So the first step is always to click New. So we'll click New, give it itinerary name, Rome, sample for advanced training. Give it a start date. October seems like a good time to go to Rome. October 1st through the 12th. And right here is where I'm going to hit a pause button almost on what's going to go on in AXUS, and we're going to jump to another website to make our itinerary look a lot better by creating a really inviting image to feature right here. So our image experience isn't the best in the world. I know that. So you can make it look better currently by using some outside sources. And the website that I'm going to show off today, and I would encourage you to learn, it's really simple and it's free. All the websites that I propose today are going to be free. So there's a website out there called Canva. And just bear with me one second. I'm going to put everybody on mute just because we're going to have so many people here. So feel free to put something in the chat section and I'll do my best to get to it. And if not, email me support at axustravelapp.com or gwilshire@axustravelapp.com. Okay, so let's say we want to make a really good looking, engaging image. Maybe this is a proposed $60,000 trip. We really want to knock it out of the park and we really want to create an amazing image to stand out. So I recommend learning this program, canva.com. It couldn't be simpler as far as image programs go, and it's free. So you'll log into canva.com. It might ask for an email address and a password as you're setting up your free account, but then you will be brought into a space that looks like this. And so AXUS, as you've noticed, has very specific dimensions on the images that we display, always in that kind of shoebox type left to right display. And the dimensions are going to be 750 by 300. So when you log into your Canva account, you're going to be asked to make a use custom dimensions options. And don't worry that I'm not following every single step of Canva. It's very, very intuitive, and they have their own support section just to kind of show you what you can do once you're up and running. I'd say in about 30 minutes of Canva, you'll be able to do exactly what I'm doing here. And this could become your image library for some of these images that you create. So I'm going to select use custom dimensions. Simply put 750 here, 300, and say design. And they're going to give us some templates that we can use. So I want to create a 3-image mosaic to use in AXUS. So I'm going to select this option down here. You'll see I have 3 images now. This is what my picture frame is going to look like inside of AXUS. So now if you come over here to the uploads option, well, I'll show you what you can do. There's actually free images inside of your Canva free subscription as well. So if you were to type in something like Rome and click return, and then you can filter it down to just photos, and you can just kind of drag and drop images over to create this tile. You'll see not all of these images are free, which is why I'm not going to focus too much on their images. You can filter it down to only show free images, but I want to show you what it would look like if you already have your favorite images that you use time and time again from being a long-time AXUS user. What you have the ability to do is upload them onto your Canva account, and I haven't added these 3 yet, so this is kind of real time. Upload your own images, so it's going to open up to your computer. I have a file folder, images for AXUS. I have, let's see if it'll let me add more than one at a time. 1, 2, 3, and open. And ta-da! So it's added the images that I had somewhere on my computer. Maybe you found those images on Google Images, or maybe you had them from your own personal travels. The important part is that they're somewhere on your computer. And now we can just drag them into this, I guess we'll still call it a picture frame. And you can play around, you can drag them around, you could even overlay text on top of this image if you wanted to. You could actually have a text marker that says proposal. You can really do whatever you want with this. Proposal. You could change the color. Very easy to use, very easy to navigate. So now we have this image here, and we need to save it as one image, and then once we have that saved, we'll be able to add it to AXUS, this proposal that we're building in AXUS. So what you can do is click download, download again. Now if everything goes right, it's going to give me the option to save it to my computer. Your design is ready and downloading. So here it is. Still can't add it to AXUS yet until I save it. So I'm going to save it to my desktop somewhere, or a folder, or a separate folder. Proposal image. I'll say somewhere more familiar, images for AXUS. Click save. So now this I would probably recommend doing for a destination that you sell quite a bit. If you have a one-off trip to Wisconsin, I wouldn't recommend doing that. But if it's a honeymoon destination, or somewhere in Italy or Africa, or a destination that you sell quite a bit, I think you'll do yourself a favor, because you're going to add a huge layer of kind of dynamic images. So now I want to add that to this proposal shell that we created earlier. So now I'll just click choose, and I can pull up that image, Rome proposal image. So it looks like 3 images, but it's really just one image. So I'm going to say save, and basically that will be our itinerary framework. So that's going to drop in chronological order. So here's another trick right here. A lot of people say, well, where's there a search feature in AXUS? I'm scrolling up and down too much. While we don't have a built-in deep dive search, or even a superficial search that's built in, on your computers, if you're using a Mac or if you're using a desktop, there is a built-in search feature. So if you're using a Mac, and look in the top right-hand corner of my screen, you might have to move your GoToMeeting dashboard out of the way. But if I click Command F, you'll see that a little text box little text box showed up. So this will allow you to do a keyword search on this page to find any itinerary that you're looking for. So if I knew the name of the traveler, if I knew the name of the itinerary, I can always type that in, and it's going to highlight it, and it's going to take me there. So if I were looking for maybe an Aqua Expeditions trip, I could just type in Aqua, and it's going to highlight it and show me. In this case, I'm looking for a Rome itinerary sample for advanced training. So the word I'm going to search for is just advanced, and it's going to take me right there. So hopefully that'll save you a bunch of time from scrolling up and down. We have put that 6-month filter in place, and know that we are going to come up with a better experience. That we're going to allow you to choose a 6-month, 9-month, or 12 plus months, and you'll be able to set that filter. So just know that we're working on that right now. Okay, so I'm going to just click in here. So that's going to show us all of our date options, and if I click this web view, it's going to show you kind of how that image renders inside of AXUS. Again, we're able to now show multiple mosaic images inside of AXUS, and that website is called canva.com. I mean, you can use it for all sort of other marketing purposes as well. I'm amazed that it's free. I don't know how they monetize it, but it's an amazing design site. If you just use it to make AXUS images, great, but you can use it for a lot more. So now what I'm going to show you is something that's also pretty brand new in AXUS. If you missed the last advanced training, so since the last training, we had introduced the concept of internal notes and timestamps. So if you click on this gear icon here, it's going to show you towards the bottom when this itinerary was first created. And if I update it, which I will, of course, here in a minute, it's going to show me the last time this itinerary was updated. And that's going to be important, especially if you're working in a team environment, or if you're just curious for your own kind of purposes. When did I create this itinerary? When's the last time I went in here and updated, just to make sure that you know that you put in the most up-to-date information. So that's recorded here, and it's also on the booking level, so you can tell when each booking was added, when each booking was updated. Now, the thing that I'm most excited about is this internal notes concept. It really is a concept that this is just the first rollout of internal notes. Internal notes is kind of like a scratch pad. If you think about it, you're bringing your own outside notes into AXUS. So this is at the itinerary level. So I imagine that you could write any number of things here. It could be something like collect final payment by October 10th. It could be something like repeat traveler has a great social network of potential clients. Now, if you're adding, you could use this organizational internal notes to actually communicate with other collaborators from inside of your organization. So you could actually write a note to somebody else on your team. It could be something like this: Jen, make sure to arrange transfer after landing in FC. Oh, and again, so much of AXUS as we give you the tools, but it's up to the agency or the tour operator to actually put in the process behind it. The process could be something like this. Now that you can color code items, it could be anything in red is urgent, anything in blue is financial, billing information. So we've given you some tools now that I think on your end you can create some really good processes behind them and start to bring in some of that communication and kind of note-taking workflow directly into AXUS. Save itinerary. And one thing that we hear quite a bit since we first rolled out that internal notes concept is, wouldn't it be great if we could print out an option with those internal notes to give to the stakeholders? And that is next. In terms of the iteration, the growing of the internal notes concept, we will devise a printable method, which will be great for tour operators. It'll be great for DMCs to have, guides to have access, and teams to be able to print that type of information out. So we've covered Canva, we've covered the timestamps, we've covered the internal notes, we've covered the new colored text, we've even covered already the Command plus F option, which is the keyboard commands that bring up that search feature on a Mac. If you're on a desktop or a PC, it will be Control plus F at the same time, and that's what's going to pull up that internal search feature for you. So what I really want to show off now is our collaborator feature, which I could spend 3 days on. Hopefully you have fooled around with it so far. Hopefully it's piqued your interest, because I think it really is one of the most powerful features that AXUS has. And I got a lot to cover, so I'm not going to spend a tremendous amount of time on it. We will set up an entire collaborator webinar here in the next couple of weeks. But essentially, for this proposal, I can reach out and tap the shoulder of any DMC in the world, basically asking them to send me their proposal inside of AXUS, or asking them to send their trip sample to me inside of AXUS, so that you don't have to. Instead of them sending you a Word document or a PDF document or PowerPoint presentation, guess what? That's no longer how you want your proposals delivered. You're asking them to be a better partner to you. So if you have the DMC in mind that you want to work with, actually, I'll take it back a step. Even if you don't have a DMC in mind, you can now click on this support button right here in AXUS. Hopefully you guys have clicked on that several times before. So now your view would look something like this. So as soon as you open up the support section, you'll see this option here: collaborating tour operators, DMCs, and on-sites. And what this is a growing list of all of the DMCs, on-sites, the DMCs and on-sites that are almost guaranteed to work with you inside of AXUS. When I say work with you, guaranteed to essentially build all of the itineraries for you directly in AXUS, so that you do not have to. A great example would be somebody like Celebrated Experiences or Madrid and Beyond. So if you are at the beginning stages and you're just curious which operators and DMCs will do this for you, we're turning this into more of a research tool. So you can kind of come in here, you can see the destinations of the world that these particular DMCs cover. You already might be a little bit interested, because you know that they're going to return the information to you in AXUS. Of course, they have to be a world-class operator for you to want to work with them. But so far, all these DMCs and on-sites are really, really good. And if you want to learn a little bit more about them, you can always click on their name, and that's going to take you to their website. So this factor, the factor that they are willing to work with you inside of AXUS, is becoming more and more of a decision maker for who a lot of our agents will work with from the beginning. I mean, if you're down to 2 operators in Spain and you know that one will work with you in AXUS and the other won't, and in your mind they're both great operators, chances are you're going to work with that one that works in AXUS. So if you get to the point where you want to invite a particular DMC or an on-site, you'll just click this option here right below the name, invite colleague, DMC, or tour operator. You'll click on that. This is where, if you know the name of the operator that you want to work with, you can type in the name of the company, or their name, or their email address, and this will pull up their profile if they have an AXUS profile already set up. So if you find their name here, great, just select it and click invite collaborator. This collaborator is going to get an email. It looks as though it's coming from you, explaining what you want them to do. If you find them here, they've been invited before and they're most likely relatively familiar with the concept. The message is, hey, I'm using AXUS. It's a faster, smarter way to work together on itineraries and proposals. Do this. You'll save us time. Allow us both to sell more travel. So if you don't find their name here, this is where your call to action should be, not to email them, not to call them. What you can do is just select new. And this is where you'll just provide us their name. So maybe you were working with a tour operator for this Italian trip that had never heard of AXUS before. So maybe it was Max Corleone. You just simply put in his name, his email address. And now when I click invite new collaborator, Max is going to get an email from you. It's going to be very detailed, explaining what you're asking them to do. But what you're not asking Max to do is actually pay anything. If you don't find that they have an existing profile, you can essentially extend your subscription of AXUS to them just for that one itinerary that you're asking them to work on with you. So don't worry that you're introducing some kind of financial barrier to them. You're really just extending them an opportunity to be a better partner to you. You are by no means asking them to pay. They can work on any single itinerary that you invite them onto. And it's really a way for them to step up and kind of be a better partner to you. So hopefully that explains a little bit more of what the collaboration feature concept is. And if you're interested in learning more about that, just email us support@axustravelapp.com. So now one of the next things that we wanted to show off was using hyperlinks. Again, one of the focuses today was using other third-party websites to make your AXUS itineraries look better. So of course we have a pre-travel section, and one of the things that you can add here if you're using our hyperlink feature, which could be something like a weather link, current weather conditions in Rome, or current weather conditions in Charleston, or wherever you're sending your travelers. You probably know AXUS doesn't have a current weather link feature, but you can be smart with our hyperlink option. So now when you select other/notes, if you've added this to your library already, you'll be able to pour it out. So I have a weather forecast for Australia and New Zealand. I want to add one for Rome. So I'm going to go through the process of adding this from scratch. So weather link for Rome. So I just give it a title. And now I'm going to go to weather.com or whatever your choice is for international weather. This one took me right to Rome. I'm essentially going to click on the URL at the top. I'm going to copy it. I'll come down here to the notes section and say click here for live weather conditions in Rome. Of course, nothing's going to happen unless I actually hyperlink that word here to the URL. So now if I highlight this and if I click on this linking feature right here, this is our hyperlinking icon. So if I click on that, I already have that URL from weather.com on my clipboard. So if I paste it in there and if I save it, now we'll show you what will happen on the online version and on the app. So now if you go back to the online version, if the traveler is to click on the word here, it's going to pull them to that weather.com profile. And on the phone, it actually looks like all of this is taking place inside of the app. So we're just hyperlinking from one source into AXUS. And you can use that hyperlinking feature for not just weather links, you could also use it for currency exchange. So you could do currency exchange link. And this one's from my library, so I pulled it automatically out. And going back about a minute and a half, once you had created that weather link for Rome or a certain destination, if you want to be able to reuse it really easily, that's when you would just simply click the copy to library option down there at the bottom, click save. And then of course something else that I always like to add to these pre-trip section would be something like what to pack. Again, you can spread this out individually for all over the world. What to pack for Australia, what to pack for Hawaii. I've taken the time to put this in before so I can just pull it right out of my library. And really quickly, actually one of the first things that I'm going to do, because the concept here is that this is a proposal. In order for it to be a proposal, you have to have pricing information. And we get this email quite often, time and time again, from long-time users. How can I use AXUS for a proposal? And in my mind, really a trip sample would really just need pricing information to make it a proposal. So to add pricing information, you'll want to add it in the pre-travel section. And I would say at the very top, insert new above. Other/notes is really one of my favorite modal types because it's so flexible. You can really put in any type of information, including information about pricing. So if you are able to template some of the text around your pricing terms and conditions, And if you save it to your library, you'll be able to pull up that templated information, and now you can come in here and adjust it. This is just some Latin text right here, but you can add in your specific pricing information, next steps, things to know before you go. So now, in another tip, if you want to make text information that you've put into an other/notes entry, which this type is, if you want to make it stand out from all of the rest of the information on that itinerary, we have two settings basically for priority, low and high. So if you make it low, nothing's going to happen. It's going to have a white background. You run the risk of it kind of being glanced over. If you make it high and save, I'll show you what will happen. And click save. So now if I revisit the web link, and now if I refresh, I'll have my pricing terms and conditions, and you'll see it has a background, gray background, and it has a color bar out to the left-hand side. It's going to be the same color as you've set in your profile, but that high priority is what makes this stand out from the pack. So we have our pricing terms and conditions, our weather link that we're linking back to weather.com. We have our what to pack. It's kind of a boy who cried wolf scenario. So if you make everything high priority, you run the risk of kind of it not being as effective. So I can actually go back in and make the what to pack something like low priority. Now let's go again, carrying on with the concept of hotels and proposals. Again, you need a way to kind of communicate that this is hotel option 1, this is hotel option 2, which isn't always obvious how to do that in AXUS, because you really have to manipulate the name of the property to make it stand out as hotel option 1 or hotel option 2. So I'll show you what I mean by that. New booking. Let's say our hotel option in Rome is going to be the Hotel Eden. So we can pull up the profile for the Hotel Eden either from Sabre library, either from Virtuoso or Signature, depending on your consortia. And to make this stand out, I'm going to have to add this into the title, Hotel Option 1, and click Save. So if I want to add in Hotel Option 2, I would just go right below it, insert new below, Hotel, and maybe Hotel Durusi. Pull that out of my library or from my consortia feed. And again, to make this stand out, kind of to bend AXUS to my will to turn this into a proposal, I would type in Hotel Option 2 and click Save. So now that when we revisit our proposal and we refresh it, when we're looking at the actual presentation, it's relatively clear to my traveler that this is hotel option 1. I could have my description, I could have several room types here, and this would be hotel option 2. So that when you're reviewing this with the traveler, they decide, okay, we want to go with hotel option 2, you can turn this, what was one time might have been a trip sample, then to a proposal, into the final documents. It would just be a matter of deleting hotel option 1 and then renaming this and removing the part about hotel option 2 and click Save. And if at any time, if that traveler maybe weeks later is asking you, oh, what was the name of that first hotel? Maybe I think we're actually considering what was the first hotel you presented us, and it's no longer here, but don't worry, it's not hidden. You can always, it is hidden, but it's not gone forever. You can click on this Restore Bookings option, and you can actually bring that booking back to life. Any booking that you've deleted will still carry on living behind this Restore Bookings option. So I actually do want it to get removed. And another thing that you might have picked up on since we started adding items to the itinerary, since we've actually added in a collaborator, we've invited a collaborator onto this itinerary. The idea is that the collaborator is only supposed to be putting in whatever he or she are responsible for, whether that's going to be the tours, the dinner reservations, the rounds of golf, etc. Anything that you have added from your side is going to have a nice lock icon next to it, so that means any third party collaborator third-party collaborator that you're working on this itinerary with will not be able to access your bookings, will not be able to edit your information. So it's very safe in that regard. They're just responsible for and capable of entering in what's new, what they are responsible for, and not editing your information. Now, maybe you wanted them to add in that information. Maybe you wanted them to kind of adjust or update your what to pack for Rome element. You can unlock it for them, and that would give whoever the third-party collaborator is on the other side the ability to plug in that information for you. And it's kind of step and repeat. You guys are all very familiar with adding bookings now, whether it's a tour, whether it's going to be a dinner reservation or a cruise. So I think we'll skip down to the bottom here to show you again how to use a third-party website inside of AXUS to make your itinerary look better. And this step I think is something that you should do on every single itinerary, because it makes AXUS an efficiency tool for you. Then it goes into a value add for the traveler. But now, once the trip is done, how can you still get value out of that AXUS itinerary? And I think that this should be kind of a standard for everybody. So post-travel, I'm going to add in a new booking. It's going to be free-form text information. So I'm going to use my other/notes category type. And I have this exists in my library already. It's called a post-trip survey. So again, we don't have a post-trip survey feature, but what we do have is the ability, again, to hyperlink to anywhere on the web. So if you want to redirect your travelers, whether it's a currency exchange link or whether it's a weather.com link, you can easily do so. In this case, we're going to redirect them to a survey that we've created independent of AXUS, outside of AXUS, and they're very simple to do. You can easily sign up for a SurveyMonkey free account, and what this is going to allow you to do is make these online surveys in any shape, fashion, or form that you want relatively easily. It's going to be free, and every survey is going to come with a URL. So at the top, you can see I've created this survey in Google Forms. Very basic. I kind of like the bubble option. It's very easy for the traveler to respond. So I would limit my questions that are free-form text answers if you want to guarantee that they're going to write back to you. And of course, one thing that you should always consider adding is where would you like to go to next. So you've used AXUS as a faster way to make the itinerary as a value add, and now you're gleaning some information from your travelers. Where would they like to go to next? So before they come home and start Googling and thinking they can plan that trip on their own, which will lead in disaster, hopefully this way, maybe while they're in the airport, kind of on their way back from the trip, they can let you know, oh, well, we'd like to go to Tanzania for our next trip. So by the time they come home, you can begin sending them some trip samples inside of AXUS. So we're going to take this URL from our online survey, and we are going to hyperlink it to this word survey. So all you do is highlight the word, and then you click on this chain icon here, and that allows you to paste in that link right into the visit URL tab and click save. And what will happen, again, if we go back to this itinerary and we refresh it, we now have a post-trip survey section at the bottom. And then if this is a really kind of expensive trip or really VIP travelers, it's up to you, I suppose, when you want to add in that survey. If you're organized enough to know that you don't want to have this post-trip survey feature appear on their itinerary until the very last day, you could set a reminder and add it at the very end. Some people choose to have it there from the very beginning. They won't really notice it in the app until the very end of their trip when they open up their phone for the last day. So now, of course, when they click on this word survey on the online version or in the app, it's going to take them directly to this source. And if they complete it, the service, whether it's SurveyMonkey or Google Forms, will send all that information back to you so you can actually review the results. And now we've got a few more minutes, so I want to take a step ahead, a quick peek ahead into what's next. What do we have on staging right now? We have a number of features that are going to come out this week. So I'm going to peek inside of our staging account and give you a quick peek as to a few of the items that we have coming up. One thing that people have wanted since day one is the ability to choose a different font. We finally, what is it, 2018, September 2018, we're finally going to be able to give that to you. So we're going to have a number of text options, font options in the beginning, probably no more than 5 or 6, and hopefully we'll be able to grow that library of font options. The way that you as an individual set your font, you'll go into your profile, and down here at the bottom, hopefully this is again not till the end of the week. We haven't released any of those features yet. You'll see a new option around font. So this way you can choose the current font that you've always had, Roboto font, an assistant font, Open Sans, Playfair Display, and that's it. That's just repeating Roboto because that's what I have set to my account now. When we deploy this, you'll actually see a graphic representation of what these fonts look like before you actually add them. So a step in the right direction here in the past couple of weeks. We finally added colored fonts, and now we're actually adding a couple different fonts for you guys to choose so you can begin to differentiate for your AXUS itineraries from somebody else's. Also, what goes a long way in doing that is really mastering something like Canva, so you can kind of have your images look dramatically different than anybody else would be able to reproduce. Another thing that we're adding is going to be the ability to hide bookings from an itinerary. And what I mean by that is if I go into, let's say this was a hotel that was proposed, we weren't ready for the traveler to see it yet, or maybe it wasn't confirmed yet. What you can do, you can actually suppress it. You can have it inside of the itinerary, so you've done the work to get it there, but you're not ready for them to actually see that item yet here on the online version or on their phone. I think it'll work really well with pickup items, such as a transfer from a hotel, maybe a pending dinner reservation, a pending golf reservation, or pending tour. You can go ahead and do the work to add them to the itinerary, but you'll be able to suppress them from actually the traveler being able to see them. We have a hide booking option up here. So if I check this option off, I click hide booking, I'll be able to suppress it so the traveler won't be able to see it until I'm ready for them to see it. So let's say I get confirmation from my ground handler, or I get confirmation from the concierge that itinerary item is confirmed. You would just go back in here, edit, and then unhide it. And there's going to be a visual indicator. I think it's going to be an eyelash that a particular booking is being hidden. There's also another layer onto this, and it's going to be hide from the contents. And the contents are going to be that overview at the very beginning of the itinerary. So maybe if you had an item like what to pack or post-trip survey or reading recommendation list that you don't really want to appear in that daily summary of events, you'd be able to hide that item actually from the contents as well. And of course, the contents is going to be this area here. So you'll be able to suppress information or an item from appearing here, but you could have it appear actually in the body of the itinerary. And we're also working on 2 other concepts that I won't visually be able to successfully show you, but it's going to be the ability to add a cover page to your itinerary. So now here at the bottom, printable version, you're going to see the ability to print off a PDF with images plus a cover page. And the cover page concept is going to be, you're going to have a clean white page with the ability to add in probably a 9-inch image. So one master image with the name, your contact information, and then the travelers. So as something that they'll see before they come into this area right here. So you'll still have this itinerary image here, but there will be a layer on top of this, which will be kind of our itinerary concept. And we're also working on, I don't know if we're going to roll it out this week, will be the ability to add in a large square image. So maybe if you can imagine this image here times 2. So an image that will come all the way down to where my marker is now. And one thing that I think that will really work well for would be maps. If you had an image of a map that you wanted to add in, you'd be able to basically use our large square image option to plug in a map so that it could quickly be read, or really easily be read inside the online version or in the PDF. Now I'm going to press my luck. I'm going to come down here to the, hey, Joel, I think I just saw Joel's question. Uh, Joel's asking, how about maps? Any way that can be incorporated into the itinerary. So what I just saw is you will be able to add in a large image of a map. We have in mind a concept of using all of the addresses from any of the hotels, any of the websites, any of the transfers that we find in the itinerary, and coming up with kind of a pinning scenario or pinning option, which would allow a visual representation of pins across a map. None of these mapping ideas, unless they're advanced by a third-party partner, will probably be coming out in the next few weeks. Hopefully, as we get into Q4, we can actually begin to develop some of them. We actually do have a call next week to really set out 3 mapping options, kind of a basic, an advanced, and then a fully interactive option. We're going to kind of scope those out development-wise and price-wise. But definitely there definitely is some mapping features coming out. Natalie Crow, thank you for reminding me. She has a question about, can you incorporate Google Maps? So there's a way that we work with Google Maps already, whether you know it or not. So inside of the actual app, if I'm a traveler and I'm looking at this itinerary on my phone, if I click on this address, it's going to bring up Google Maps or Apple Maps or whatever the native mapping feature is on my phone, and it's going to be a very familiar experience to them. They can say, I want to walk from here to there. They can click on it or give them driving directions. So we do have Google Maps and Apple Maps kind of embedded, just a normal app feature if they click on the address. Now, what I was going to show you is if you, and this is a whole show unto itself for advanced training. If you want to look into the concept of My Maps, Google My Maps, it basically allows you a canvas to create your own custom interactive maps of a destination. So I haven't thought about this map in years. So I was surprised that it was still here. I created a kind of a New York dining recommendations interactive map on Google My Maps. So you can search a restaurant, add a pin, search a park, add a pin, search a hotel, search a point of interest, and add a pin. So now, again, that's going to create this URL that you can incorporate into an AXUS itinerary, the same way you can hyperlink to any URL. And to incorporate it, a My Map, a Google My Map, you're just going to insert new above, other / notes, and let's see. What do I call it? Interactive dining map of New York. Saved it in my library. Description. I hyperlink the word my map link back to the My Map feature. And so now, if I were to view this actual itinerary, if I refresh it, keep in mind this isn't the end-all be-all solution, because it does require that your traveler has a Wi-Fi signal in order to be able to pull this up. So if I'm on my map, or if I'm on my app, or if I'm inside of this online version now, I click the map link, it's going to, looks as though it's going to stay in AXUS. It's going to pull me up to a screen like this. And keep in mind, you have to build this map, so you have to take the time to construct this My Map. But again, if it's a destination that you sell quite a bit, it would definitely be worth it to go and have some of these for your top destinations. Or if you can find somewhere that has some of these online Google My Map destinations built for you, there's no reason that you could not incorporate those the same way you can incorporate any other URL. Let me go back. Yeah, thanks, Natalie. It is a good option. It does require some time, but if it's a destination you sell quite a bit, I think it's well worth that time. It'll open in the same browser, Natalie, so they would just have to click a back arrow to go to AXUS. So it looks as though it's self-contained in AXUS. Gail has a question. If a client cannot access Wi-Fi, how can they get their AXUS itinerary? So if they have their phone on airplane mode, the AXUS itinerary will be cached in their cache memory, so they can pull it up, and they could pull up the itinerary. They could pull up any documents. If you had added a Travel 42 guide, they could pull those up as well. What they couldn't do, of course, is press an address, and it's not going to take them to Google Maps. They couldn't press on a phone number or website, but they still would be able to pull up all of the information that you see here. You go back and review some of these questions, and I know our time has passed. It's 2:45, so I'm going to stay on and try to get through some of these questions. Joel, maybe we can connect later this week. I know you've been working with Bruno on AXUS lately. I'm going to review some of the questions. Earlier question for me, how are people working with the partners on this list? If they are putting pricing in there, are the members generally making a copy and then using it for client facing? So Joel had a question about the collaboration concept, working with a third-party vendor. Does the vendor put the pricing in? You could, if you're the vendor. Joel is from GOX, so in this case, they were putting together an itinerary for an advisor. You could include pricing there. If you unlock it, the advisor could ultimately edit it and make it their own. You could choose to send pricing along in a separate email. You could use the internal or the notes option at the top to convey pricing. There's no one process, I suppose, about including pricing on the itinerary. Let me go back. Joanne says, how can clients download a document from their phone? So from the app, this is a good tip, from the actual AXUS app, you can view the documents, but you can't pull them up. Now, if they have access to their email, which they're on their phone, or they have access to AXUS, they probably have access to their email. If they can pull up the email that they received when you published the itinerary for them, basically this link is going to be in that email. So this is the link for the online version of the itinerary. So if they click on that link on their phone, there is a mobile version of the itinerary that can be pulled up on a browser. And from that representation, if they select documents, they'd be able to download it to their phone, they'd be able to email it, they'd be able to print it as well. So from the app, they cannot, but from their phone, if they click on this link, they can definitely do that. Definitely a workaround, but it does kind of achieve the purpose of them being able to pull up a document and email it or print it or download it to their phone. Just looking over some other questions. And please, if I don't get your question, just email me support@axustravel.com, and I will make sure that I get that answered for you. Joel had an earlier question about surveys. If you add a survey to the itinerary, how would you alert the traveler? As of now, there's not an automated kind of a set schedule of notifications to send out. So it would be incumbent upon the travel company to put a message in, to send a message, or to send a follow-up email, or include it from the very beginning in hope that they saw it at the end. We do obviously have the concept of you being able to set scheduled messages depending on the duration of the trip. Send this on day one, send this on day two, send this after this flight lands. That's a little bit further off until 2019. But you would have to alert them pretty semi-manually on your side. Joel had a question. Can you please review where the images come from inside of AXUS? So inside of AXUS, the images come from three places. Any image that you are able to pull up in AXUS, you are free and clear and able to use. So for instance, if you're building an itinerary and you use the option here, search image library, and I type in Rome, all of these images are free. They're labeled for reuse. They're coming from this source, pixabay.com. If you are inside of our concierge tab and you pull up a restaurant and you get a result from Google, any image that you're going to see here, labeled for reuse, copyright free. These are all images that Google allows you to reuse. And the only other source for images would be from our hotel. If you're pulling up a hotel and you were to type in something like in at the Spanish Steps, you're going to see this powered by Sabre. So even if you have nothing to do with Sabre, we're a Sabre authorized developer. So if you click on this, you're going to get some images. This can be a combination of Google images and images from Sabre. The best thing to know is that they're all labeled for reuse, copyright free. You don't have to worry about anybody from Getty Images charging you $10,000. Angie says, we're going to get a copy of this webinar. I had to miss the beginning. We'll post this on our support section. So this will be the latest version of the itinerary or of the advanced training that you can pull up in our training library. And I think that's pretty much it. If I missed your question, I don't want to have everybody hang out. Just I'll review them, but also go ahead and shoot us an email, support@axustravel.com. Thanks for your time. Thanks for supporting AXUS. And I hope that this has been beneficial. Really, the concept here was how do we use other third-party websites inside of AXUS to make AXUS stronger and make your itineraries look better. So please feel free to reach out with any specific questions, and we'll do our best to get back to you right away. I appreciate all of you. Thank you. Bye-bye.